We've all seen this corporate tragedy play out, right? Like a legacy company realizes it's stuck in its ways, so leadership decides it is, finally time for a massive shakeup.
Oh, absolutely. The classic, let's bring in an outsider move.
Exactly. They go out and hire this brilliant outsider. Maybe it's a Silicon Valley tech executive brought into a traditional hospital system, or, I don't know, a hotshot digital lead recruited by a government agency.
Yeah.
And this person arrives with incredible fanfare, explicit executive backing, and an ambitious mandate to just change the world.
Right.
But then you fast forward like 6 to 12 months, and they are completely neutralized. They've either quietly exited the building or they're just pushing paper like everyone else.
Yeah, it's wild. The pattern is remarkably consistent across industries, too.
Yeah.
And what makes it so fascinating is that this isn't a failure of individual talent
Right.
or even a lack of initial enthusiasm from the leadership team.
Well, that paradox is exactly what we are dissecting today on this deep dive. We are pulling entirely from Dr. Jonathan H. Westover's research paper. When organizations hire change agents, they don't intend to support.
It is such a good paper.
It really is. Our mission today is to uncover the invisible organizational immune system that just crushes transformation. And then we're going to figure out the architectural blueprint required to actually make change stick.
I love that.
So, as I was reading through this research, I just couldn't stop thinking about an organ transplant.
Oh, an organ transplant. Okay.
Like, think about it. The body, meaning the organization, knows it desperately needs this new heart to survive.
Mhm.
But the moment the surgeon puts it in, the body's immediate biological instinct is to attack it as a foreign invader.
That analogy perfectly captures the mechanics at play here. The organization experiences a literal immune response.
Wow.
And this stems from a dynamic that researchers call the rhetoric-reality gap.
The rhetoric-reality gap. Okay, unpack that for me.
So, on the surface, the organization has a genuine, explicitly stated desire for change. They really do want the new heart.
Right. They wrote the press release and everything.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But in reality, they operate internal systems, cultures, and incentive structures that are ruthlessly designed to resist that exact change.
So the rhetoric demands innovation, but the daily reality demands conformity.
You nailed it.
But what feels particularly insidious about this immune response is that it rarely looks like an aggressive, coordinated attack. Like, nobody is cornering the new executive in the parking lot and threatening them.
No, it's much quieter than that.
Yeah, it operates as a silent assimilation.
Right, and the paper refers to this specific phenomenon as institutional absorption.
Institutional absorption.
Yeah, it's the subtle, almost invisible process of neutralizing disruptive talent through three distinct structural forces.
Okay, lay them out for me.
First, you have cultural gravity.
Cultural gravity.
Yeah, this is the social reinforcement. Yeah, the raised eyebrows in a meeting, the polite, that's just not how we do things here comments.
Oh, man, I have heard that so many times.
We all have. And it slowly drags new entrants toward the status quo.
It's just the sheer weight of precedent pulling you back to earth.
Exactly. Then comes the second force, which is political attrition.
Okay.
This is the exhaustion of navigating incumbent power networks. Imagine having to schedule, 7 separate pre-meetings just to get approval for one minor software update.
Just to make sure nobody gets offended.
Right. It completely drains the change agent's energy over time. And finally, there is reward system misalignment.
Ah, the money.
Always the money. A company might publicly demand bold innovation, but their actual promotion criteria, bonus structures, and resource allocations exclusively reward predictable, risk-averse behaviors.
So you get penalized for doing exactly what they hired you to do.
Exactly.
But let me play devil's advocate and challenge this framing for a moment.
Sure.
When anyone joins a new company, they have to undergo socialization, right? They have to learn how to be a productive team player within a new context. Is institutional absorption really that different from just learning the ropes? Or maybe even management intentionally co-opting a rebel to quiet them down?
So the research draws a very hard line here.
Yeah.
Socialization is about making someone productive. It integrates them so they can execute the daily work.
Right.
Absorption, on the other hand, specifically neutralizes their disruptive potential while preserving that productive capacity.
Right. Oh, I see.
Yeah, so a change agent undergoing absorption is still working 50 hours a week, but they aren't changing anything anymore.
They're just doing the normal work.
Exactly. And furthermore, unlike co-optation, which is a deliberate, calculated chess move by management.
Like promoting your biggest critic to shut them up.
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
Unlike that, absorption is almost entirely unintentional. It is simply the architectural structure of the organization protecting its established patterns.
Wow. And that unintentional nature, I mean, it makes it function like a biological clock ticking in the background. Because it relies on these systemic pressures, it operates on a highly predictable timeline.
It really does. We often hear about the first 90 days being crucial for a new hire to establish credibility.
Right, the classic 90-day plan.
Right, but longitudinal studies on change agents reveal that the true danger zone actually hits between months 4 and 8.
Months 4 to 8, why then?
That is the critical juncture. The honeymoon period ends, the initial momentum from their high-profile hiring fades, and their actual initiatives begin colliding with embedded, deep-rooted resistance.
So months 4 to 8 is when you just hit the wall.
You hit it hard.
And it seems certain environments amplify that danger significantly. The research highlights highly professionalized organizations like hospitals, law firms, and universities as particularly hostile to change agents.
Yeah, because in those specific environments, professional identity and peer networks heavily outweigh formal corporate authority.
What do you mean by that?
Well, a chief patient experience officer might carry a C-suite title, but if the network of incumbent physicians views them as an outsider.
Because they don't have an MD after their name.
Exactly. Then that title holds zero weight. Public sector agencies present similar elevated risks just due to complex stakeholder webs and massive procedural constraints.
That makes sense. But the most counterintuitive finding to me was regarding organizations in crisis.
Oh yeah, this is fascinating.
Because logic dictates that a crisis would be the perfect breeding ground for a change agent, right? Everyone clearly acknowledges the current system is broken.
You would think so. But paradoxically, a crisis often triggers an intense defensive response.
Really?
Yeah, instead of opening up to disruption, the organization panics and retreats to its most established power structures and proven routines.
Oh, wow.
In a moment of fear, they grip the steering wheel tighter rather than handing it over to a new navigator.
That is so true. Human nature on a corporate scale. I noticed the paper also dug into what makes the individual change agent vulnerable to this machinery. It's not just about the environment, it's about how they are positioned.
Yes.
Lacking domain credibility is a huge factor, like we said. Bringing a non-clinical tech leader into a hospital means the incumbents can immediately dismiss them for not being a doctor. Or they might have a weak structural position, like they get a fancy head of transformation title, but zero actual budget control or hiring authority.
It's a title with no teeth.
Yeah.
But the most fascinating vulnerability the research identifies is identity threat.
Yes, that concept really stood out to me. If someone's entire professional brand is built around being the disruptor, hitting that wall of resistance isn't just a career hurdle.
No, it's a much deeper.
When they realize they have to heavily compromise just to survive the political attrition, it feels like a personal failure. It shatters their self-concept, which leads to massive psychological distress.
Which sets the stage for the broader fallout. When that trap of institutional absorption finally snaps shut, the collateral damage is devastating for both the organization and the human being caught in it.
I can imagine.
On the organizational side, we see a phenomenon known as strategy theater.
Oh, strategy theater. I have absolutely witnessed that firsthand.
We all have, right?
Yeah, the absorbed change agent is still technically in their role, so the company maintains this grand illusion of progress. There are steering committees, flashy initiative announcements, massive slide decks presented at town halls.
So many slide decks.
Right, but the core operational mechanics haven't changed a single degree.
No, because it relieves the organizational pressure to change without requiring any actual adaptation.
It's all just a show.
Exactly. But
Yeah.
Everyone watching knows it's a performance, and this triggers a severe talent drain.
Oh, because the good people leave.
Right. High-performing employees observe the change agent being neutralized and quickly realize that true innovation is implicitly punished, so they leave.
That makes total sense.
Meanwhile, external stakeholders, patients, citizens, investors, they lose faith entirely. Repeated exposure to that rhetoric-reality gap permanently erodes trust.
So if you are listening to this deep dive right now and you've ever been hired to fix a broken system only to be systematically blocked from fixing it, this next part will resonate deeply.
Definitely.
Because the paper makes a brilliant distinction between two types of stress experienced in the workplace. Challenge stress versus hindrance stress.
Right. So challenge stress is the energizing, motivating pressure you feel when tackling a difficult but solvable problem.
Like climbing a mountain. It's hard, but it's rewarding.
Yes, it leads to growth. Hindrance stress, on the other hand, is debilitating. It is the exhaustion of navigating endless political dynamics, fighting arbitrary bureaucratic constraints, and defending initiatives that have zero structural support.
It's basically running on a treadmill while people throw things at you.
That's a great way to put it. Change agents trapped in absorption suffer from catastrophic levels of hindrance stress.
And the most heartbreaking outcome detailed in the paper is moral injury.
Yeah, that part is heavy.
Imagine a sustainability director hired to reduce a massive manufacturing company's environmental impact. They care deeply about the planet, but the immune system absorbs them. They are sidelined into a purely administrative role, forced to ensure the company's compliance paperwork looks acceptable while the actual pollution continues unabated.
Right, they're basically forced to be complicit in the exact dysfunction they were hired to cure.
Oh, that's awful.
It is. Experiencing that kind of ethical distress causes profound psychological harm. The individual is forced to constantly balance their personal integrity against their professional survival.
It's like being hired as a ship and navigator to avoid icebergs, but the captain locks the steering wheel and then blames you when the ship hits the ice.
Yes.
It is completely crazy-making.
The tragically accurate picture. Fortunately, the research doesn't stop at diagnosing the disease.
Thank goodness.
Yeah, it pivots to the architectural blueprint required to actually rewire the organizational immune system and make change stick.
Okay, this is where we get into the cure.
Yeah.
We have to start with rewiring the politics and the paychecks. Because if the organizational immune system relies on structural forces, the change agent can't fight it with just good ideas. Technical merit is totally insufficient.
Right. Having the absolute best strategy on paper means nothing without political capital.
Nothing at all.
Change agents need accumulated influence to mobilize support. The literature emphasizes that leaders who bring in change agents must actively build structural coalitions for them.
Give me an example of that.
Consider Satya Nadella's approach when he took over Microsoft in 2014.
Oh, Microsoft at that time was notorious for its siloed, fiercely competitive culture. I mean, divisions were essentially warring factions.
They were, and Nadella understood that simply dropping a few change agents into that environment would guarantee their absorption.
Wouldn't be eaten alive.
Exactly. So he built structural coalitions. He instituted a senior leadership team that forced historically warring division heads to negotiate shared priorities.
Oh, that's smart.
And he also elevated the Technical Fellows Program, which formally empowered senior engineers to influence strategic direction.
So he rewired the internal power structure so that change agents had a pre-existing coalition to plug into.
Right, rather than asking them to fight the cultural gravity alone.
That is huge. And the second half of that rewiring is the paycheck itself, the reward system. You cannot look your executives in the eye, demand they become bold innovators, and then tie their entire annual bonus to predictable, incremental quarterly returns.
No, you will always get what you pay for.
Exactly.
Look at how the Cleveland Clinic handled this. In the early 2000s, they committed to becoming deeply patient-centered.
Okay.
But their existing architecture compensated and promoted doctors solely based on clinical excellence. Complication rates, research output, patient volume.
So patient experience was functionally treated as a nice bonus.
Exactly. To prevent their transformation from becoming strategy theater, they changed the underlying architecture. They tied physician compensation and promotions directly to patient experience scores.
Wow. They turned patient-centered innovation into a career accelerator instead of just a symbolic corporate initiative.
They did.
But consider the middle managers who are stuck evaluating these change agents. If they are using traditional performance reviews, they are still going to crush anyone taking long-term risks.
Yeah, that's a massive roadblock. Organizations have to fundamentally redesign performance management to accommodate transformation.
How do they do that?
Well, traditional goal cascades and annual reviews inherently disadvantage change agents because systemic change takes time.
Right. You can't overhaul a culture in Q3.
Exactly. The research suggests moving to multi-year performance horizons, evaluating progress over 18 to 36 months instead of 12.
That gives them some breathing room.
It does. But more importantly, it requires dual-track recognition systems.
Dual track.
Yeah, so while an operational line manager might be evaluated on immediate financial returns, a change agent must be evaluated on coalition strength, capability building, and milestone development, even when the final financial ROI is still pending.
Okay, so a company aligns the politics and fixes the paychecks. The change agent has allies and the right bonus
Yeah.
structure. But even with all of that, they will still fail if they are starved of resources and kept in the dark.
Absolutely. Resource allocation is the ultimate truth teller in any organization. A company's true strategy isn't found in its mission statement, it is found in its budget.
Show me the money, right?
Exactly. Change agents frequently receive broad, sweeping mandates, but zero actual resource control,
Oh, they're forced to beg operational executives for funding,
which puts them entirely at the mercy of the incumbents.
which basically guarantees absorption. They need their own war chest, multi-year transformation budgets that are completely shielded from standard annual scrutiny.
And Amazon provides a masterclass in this with their two pizza teams.
Oh, the two pizza teams. I love this.
Yeah, so when Amazon decides to innovate in a new sector, they don't ask an innovation team to constantly negotiate for resources with established business units,
Yep.
because those units are naturally protecting their current revenue stream.
Right.
Instead, they give that small team a defined budget, an extended timeline, and total autonomous authority over their technology choices and hiring.
So they essentially build a clean room for the change agent. They completely insulate the team from the enterprise's cultural gravity.
That's exactly what it is, a clean room.
But there's another crucial weapon needed for this clean room to work: transparency.
Yes.
The paper highlights the U.S. Digital Service and 18F. These are government entities brought in to overhaul failing digital infrastructure.
Right.
And they operate on a default to open practice. They keep their work backlogs visible to everyone, and they publicly document every bureaucratic obstacle they run into.
It's radical transparency.
But wait, I have to pause on that. Making internal bureaucratic obstacles public sounds like absolute career suicide.
It does, doesn't it?
Yeah, like if I'm a change agent and I start broadcasting that the procurement department is blocking my initiative, doesn't that just make enemies out of the incumbents?
In a traditional, defensively minded environment, absolutely.
Yeah.
But this is where the concept of psychological safety becomes an architectural requirement, not just an HR buzzword.
Okay, how does that work?
If leadership makes obstacle reporting the standard, required protocol for the entire organization, it completely neutralizes the interpersonal friction.
Because everybody has to do it.
Right. It transforms what would normally be whispered political drama into a simple, objective process problem.
So when the U.S. Digital Service publicizes a procurement roadblock, it doesn't look like an individual change agent complaining about a specific manager.
No.
It just looks like an engineering team documenting a systemic flaw in the machinery.
Precisely. And crucially, it generates political capital with external advocates, like Congress or the public, rather than isolating the change agent internally.
Wow. You stop suffering in silence and you make the systemic barrier everyone's shared problem to solve.
Exactly.
Which brings us to the final and really most extreme evolution of this blueprint, the radical redesign.
Yes, the big one.
To truly defeat institutional absorption forever, organizations have to stop treating transformation as a specialized side project. They need to treat it as an architectural reality of the company.
Because we have to address the hierarchical management layers. Middle management is the physical location where absorption happens.
Right, because every layer of approval is a node where the immune system can mount a defense.
Exactly. And the paper points to Hare's Rendenhay model to show what this looks like in practice. Haier is a massive Chinese appliance manufacturer that completely dissolved its traditional corporate hierarchy.
They just dissolved it.
Yeah, they broke the entire company into thousands of autonomous microenterprises.
The logistics of that are just staggering. They operate almost like independent startups connected by internal market mechanisms.
Yes.
So by literally deleting the middle management layer, they remove the nodes where ideas go to die. The resistance network just doesn't exist anymore.
It's brilliant.
Yeah.
But dissolving that hierarchy requires a completely different mindset from the employees. Which brings us to the evolution of the psychological contract.
Oh, right.
The traditional psychological contract between employer and employee was basically, give us your loyalty, conform to our ways, and we will give you job security.
And that specific contract is fatal to change agents.
Totally fatal. Organizations need to shift to a mission-driven contract. Patagonia exemplifies this perfectly.
Oh, I love the Patagonia example.
All right, they don't just ask for corporate loyalty. They explicitly hire environmental activists.
And what fascinates me about Patagonia is that they actually accept turnover if an employee leaves to go work for an environmental nonprofit. They view that outcome as a success.
Which is so rare.
It is, because by doing that, they are explicitly validating dissent against conventional business logic. They are signaling to their employees, your loyalty is to the overarching mission, not to our corporate status quo.
And aligning purpose that deeply is what sustains change agents through incredible obstacles. And to maintain that forward momentum, organizations must build for continuous adaptation. Rigid annual strategic planning cycles are massive absorption traps.
Yeah, because the friction of a 6-month planning cycle gives the immune system plenty of time to mobilize.
Right. A change agent spots a shift in the market in March, but they have to wait until a November planning committee to request resources.
And by then, the momentum is completely dead, and the bureaucracy has found 5 different reasons to say no.
Exactly. Zara, the fashion retailer, bypassed this entirely. They built an operational architecture around 2-week design-to-store cycles.
2 weeks?
2 weeks. They are continuously sensing the environment and adapting. Because the cycle is so short, change is deployed before the bureaucracy can even schedule a meeting to resist it.
That is incredible.
It's not a special initiative to change, right?
Right.
Rapid adaptation is simply how the company breathes.
Putting all these pieces together paints a very clear picture. Successful transformation isn't about finding one lone superhero change agent who can magically survive the political gauntlet.
No, it's not.
It requires building capability across the entire company.
And the paper highlights DBS Bank's approach to this. When they launched their digital transformation, they didn't just hire a few tech wizards and throw them into a traditional banking culture.
That would be the organ transplant feeling again.
Exactly. Instead, they trained all of their employees as digital evangelists. They rotated traditional bankers into tech companies. They made change literacy a core organizational competence.
So when the specialized change agents finally arrived, they found capable partners instead of resistant obstacles.
Exactly. They primed the immune system to accept the transplant.
So what does this all mean for us? If an organization hires a change agent and that person fails, we have to stop instinctively blaming the individual. If the organization's architecture is perfectly designed to absorb and neutralize them, that is a systemic failure of leadership. To make change stick, you need structural political coalitions, you need transparent safety to call out roadblocks without fear, you need shielded transformation budgets, and you have to align the reward system so people are actually paid to innovate.
It requires a fundamental shift in mindset, from simply hoping for resilience to actively engineering for transformation.
So if you are listening to this right now and thinking about your own organization, take a hard look at your reward systems. Are you rewarding A while hoping for B? Are you begging for disruptors in your mission statement, but only promoting the conformists in your annual reviews?
It's such an important question to ask. And, exploring this organizational immune system raises another incredibly important thought, one that builds directly on the mechanics we've just unpacked.
Oh, let's hear it.
We've talked about institutional absorption as an unintentional immune response that organizations desperately need to suppress in order to allow for change.
Right.
But consider the extreme alternative. If an organization completely neutralizes this immune response to allow for total frictionless change at all times, do they risk losing their core identity entirely?
Oh, wow.
Is the perfect organization one that manages to exist in a permanent, carefully controlled state of mild autoimmune disease, constantly rejecting and accepting parts of itself simultaneously?
A permanent controlled state of mild autoimmune disease. So instead of fighting the organ transplant, the body learns to somehow hold both the old and the new in tension.
Exactly.
That completely reframes how we should think about leading a company into the future. It is definitely something to chew on before your next strategy meeting. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive, and we'll catch you next time.